All right, we can begin. Good morning, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Onegaishimasu. So I hope everyone's very well this morning, today. Let me begin with reading Shokushu number 5, which is the 1 point in the lower abdomen. The universe is a limitless circle with an infinite radius. This condensed becomes the individual, then further condensed becomes the 1 point in the lower abdomen. This gift of 1 point is the very center of the universe. Let us calm our mind in this 1 point, and we will automatically experience the infinite key of the universe. This morning, I'd like to address Toi Sensei's phrase, the 1 point is a magic pot. I think you've probably heard this before, and I don't think anybody said this before Toi Sensei, but I don't really know. But it's an excellent reminder for us. The 1 point is a magic pot. We all are subject to moments of high emotion in our lives. We all have reactivity. Sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's negative, but it's always, quite often, it's out of control and on a very high level and doesn't lead to something that is good for us or other people. Of course, as we mature in our practice, perhaps these moments of high emotion happen to us less often, maybe. Or maybe when they do happen, they're less intense. But they never go away. And even when you think you may have conquered some aspect of this within ourselves, we will be surprised to find that it will jump up again to bite us in the most inopportune moments. So, the question is always, of course, how to deal with this or what to do. People are always asking me, how do I have more equanimity in my life? Meaning a little bit more a level playing field, not so up and down and radically changing. These things come about because we have expectations that get thwarted. Well, we have we take positions that are contradicted. We have beliefs that are not supported. And so whenever we have a moment of high emotion, it comes about because there is confusion. We are confused about something, or there's misunderstanding. And misunderstanding meaning like we simply don't have a clear understanding of what is in our own best interest. That's why we defend something that is not in our own best interest. And that's why we become angry. It's always a boundary that is self-appointed and self-imagined, that is crossed by someone else for one reason or another. So, in Aikido we say, put that in the 1 point, put that in the magic pot where it can dissolve. I always say, don't repress it. Don't express it, just undress it. In other words, don't suppress it, means don't put it away and encapsulate it in some corner inside yourself. So, in other words, don't hide from it. Don't shove it into a corner where later on it is always going to explode because there's a lot of energy that goes with that emotion. And so when you encapsulate the emotion, you encapsulate all that energy, and that will have to explode and come out again at some point. And it will always come out in a moment that doesn't benefit us. So that's never in our best interest to hide it away, to suppress it. And when we express it, it means we're looking for someone else to share that horrible feeling we have with us, as if that would make it easier for us. We find, if we're observant, if we're noticing our life, that when we do that, it not only doesn't make us feel better, it makes someone else feel lousy also. So then we're putting our disturbance, our mistake, our misunderstanding out there in the world on one or maybe many, many more people. So don't suppress it. Don't express it. Don't look for an outlet. Just undress it. Undress it means take the covering off it. Take the ignorance away from it. See it for what it is. The way we do that is we put it in the one point. We place it gently down in that pool of the one point in the lower abdomen, that magic pot. And we just let it rest there. An emotion just wants to be felt. That's all. That's all it wants. So without bringing anybody else into the picture, and without hiding from it, we let it sit in our one point. And we close our eyes and let it have its way. We undress it. We let it stand there naked in front of us and expose itself for what it really is. And little by little, the confusion disappears. We see things for what they are, and voila, the emotion dissolves. It has its way with us. We don't ignore it. We pay attention to it. We give it what it deserves. We bring it into the fold. We own it. We embrace it. We recognize it for our own mistake, not somebody else's. It's our own emotion for us to express within ourselves. So this is how the magic pot works. And, everybody knows when you're on the mat and you're working out with other people, there's always little things that come up. Of course, never mind daily life. It happens just in this workshop that this dojo, place of training, dojo, is a kind of a workshop where we go to see what happens when we piss each other off, or we disappoint each other, or we scare each other, or we hurt each other's feelings. What do we do with it? How do we react? Well, we have a physical representation of this magic pot. What happens when we have a magic pot? We're able to move smoothly. Instead of being all tied up with the emotion, we're able to move smoothly with the other person without giving them any of our negativity. So practicing that over and over and over and over with a physical metaphor gives us a much deeper experiential understanding of this thing that Toysons is talking about, this magic pot. Okay, so while we're doing our sitting this morning, things will arise like they always do. So I want you to try to use this as an experiment during our sitting and let them rest. Just place them, whatever it is, positive or negative, and whatever kind of thought it is, just let it rest in the one point and see what happens. I'm not, please notice I didn't say don't suppress it, don't express it, don't address it, which I used to say. I said, don't. I said, just address it. I said, just undress it. Very different. Don't try to figure anything out. Just let it rest there. Completely seen for what it is. Okay. We'll start with some deep breathing. Excuse me. So I'd like to have you tell me, share with us what this experiment was like for you. And maybe it was the first time you ever heard of this magic pod or tried this or understood how this is supposed to work. Or maybe you've been working with this for years. In either case, you could please say something to us about your experience of it. Would be nice. And of course, if you have a question about how this works, please speak up and ask.
Hello, Sensei.
Hello, Vernon.
About this magic pot, about putting part of our emotions or suppressing some of our emotions, even when laughter or things like that, or negatives, it's sometimes making us like zombies or not being human or so. And how do we choose that to be natural in our emotions, or do we have some way of just letting these emotions set down in our, or choosing which ones to, so just do nothing, so to speak, with our emotions?
Yeah, okay. So this has to do with. Thank you for that question. It really has to do with how this works. This is not something to get obsessed by, of course. We're not trying to become neutral in our emotional life. And fortunately, there's no danger of that ever happening. We're not capable of that. But when we are angry, for instance, our upper body and our head becomes very hot and burns with this. That's the feeling of it. It's like it's burning us. And if we're able to put this anger, this emotion, down into the one point, and give all of our attention to this, and undress it, in other words, see it for what it is, we become very, very calm and cool and collected in this effort, in this really surrender. Instead of fighting against, we're accepting it as a natural thing and letting it have its life without hiding from it, suppressing it, which of course is what will make us into zombies later to explode, or putting it out on everybody else. It's a popular notion that they even have a room now in Honolulu. It started in Sweden, but they have one even in Honolulu now where you can pay money and go and pick up dishes and throw them against walls and break them. And that's supposed to get this emotion out of you that you've stored up. Well, maybe so. Maybe you can get rid of some of your suppressed emotion that way. But generally speaking, it's not a healthy thing to try to put your emotion out into the world to get rid of it. But more often than that, we're usually trying to share it with someone else so that somebody we care about and trust. And that's all right. I mean, often we just need somebody to listen. But ultimately, if we want to come to terms with an emotion and see what it came from, maybe it was greed, maybe it was our pride that got damaged, maybe it was a belief system, maybe it was envy and jealousy, maybe it was just superiority. Someone disappoints us because we think we're better than they are and we know better how they should be acting. Or maybe we think we're inferior and we're overburdened by someone. We're intimidated by someone. That gets us disturbed. But if we don't see what the cause of the burning in us is, then there can be no resolution. It will just come up again and again and again.
That helps with recognizing and aware of that one thing that causes our emotions.
Please understand, we're not trying to take every emotion that's felt and stuff it down in the one point and just be neutral all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing better than a smile and a little laughter than to solve a problem. But there has to be some insight for that to happen, doesn't there? There has to be some resolution. And this is not necessarily something that takes an hour. It can take like that. We just, Toy Sensei always go like this. He said that's putting it in the magic pot. And it resolves it. Oh, I understand. So that the process, we can become expert. We can become adept at this process. When we understand, that's just that part of me that is always acting like an idiot because it's still immature in me. So forget it. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to take that on as a burden, because we already understand that part. We have some maturity based on this part of us that is immature. Then we can do that. Okay, someone else, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei.
Morning, Sensei.
Good morning.
Putting things in one pot, in one point, in this magic pot, I experienced different things. Sometimes it's clear as crystal, and sometimes it's so vague, so untouchable. Like when I see it clear, when I experience something challenging in front of me, it takes a few seconds sometimes, so like a pause, and then everything becomes so clear, and I feel calmness. I feel so connected to something unknown inside me.
Yeah.
But there are times when I face issues and put things in my one point, and that undressing is very vague for me because I go back and forth. It causes more unsolved problems in my mind. And I don't know whether I'm trying to analyze it too much or think about too much. But how do I undress something without thinking about it, without analyzing it? So let everything sit in one point. Does that mean I should feel more and think less? And just, I don't know why the experiences are so different.
Yeah, so as usual, you're answering your own question. You do know the answer already, of course. It's feel more, think less. When we argue with ourselves, when we have an interior discussion with ourselves about two sides of an issue, that means we're just trying to play with it, figure it out. We're getting some kind of feedback, some kind of emotional satisfaction from just thinking we're dealing with it by discussing it with ourselves. That doesn't lead anywhere, and it often leads to further confusion and further disorienting. So Yeah, we just let it rest there. Here, we let it rest here in our one point. And stay very calm. And let it do its thing. See what it is. Don't judge it like we do everyday life that got us into the problem to begin with by thinking we know what is correct. You know, when we get upset with a client, for instance, you're an airline, you work as an attendant on an airline, right? You're in first class with all these snooty people on the airline, and so I'm sure there's plenty of opportunity to misunderstand or mistake or take in the wrong way what someone says to you. They're always making demands and they want to be waited upon. So people in daily life are like this too, but you really experience it. So this is wonderful. You have a workshop that you go to every time you fly where you can have this experience and work with it. So great. You're probably very good at this already. But when you go back into the galley and mull over it and try to figure it out and see both sides of it and talk to yourself about it, as I'm sure you've done before, that's feeding the misunderstanding. That is not resolving it. We don't really resolve it with our mind. We recognize it for what it is. That is an emotional thing. That is a feeling thing. Recognize it's like an aha moment. That's not just an intellectual thing. That's not just figuring something out. That's looking at it, and listening to it, letting it speak to us, and then, oh, I get it. Now, of course, our intellect is involved, but it's not the same as mulling over it, struggling with it, suffering because of it. Struggle and suffer is the same thing. It's always resting in the one point. And then we can bubble up with whatever has to happen. Maybe you have to go back and say something to that person. But if you've done this work first in your galley in front, and you come back and have to say something to them, it's going to be a lot more constructive than what you would have said if you just snapped back at him or her. Do you see what I mean? Right, so this is we're really just talking about the process of becoming more and more mature in our responses to the world, to the conflict the world presents to us. Okay? Someone else. We have a little bit more time.
Sensei, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I was wondering if there's a resemblance between the way we are in the dojo when somebody attacks us. I understand we try to feel how to let them have their way and still not become victimized by that, by moving, by changing our position towards the person, right? So would there be a resemblance to that when somebody makes you angry, that you might find, or you feel challenged, that you want the person to be free to do whatever they want, but still you don't want to be victimized by that, so you need to change your mental position or your emotional position towards them in a way? Thank you, Sensei.
So there's always, when we're upset with someone, that is standing in the way, right? Isn't it? Between us and them. It prevents us from connecting with them. So, yeah, we have to forgive them in order to connect with them. But forgiveness, again, is not an intellectual thing. It's an emotional thing. So that means our judgment of them that has caused us, whether they're superior or we think they're bullying us, They may be doing all that, but our reactivity to that prevents us from joining with them. So Suzuki Sensei used to look at it like this. He used to say, don't be on the same plane with them. You have to be on this plane while they're on this plane so that you can come down and control them. You can come and be a part of them. When you're in this position with someone, you never feel intimidated by them. You can see that you need to help them. You need to join with them and bring them into your circle. And that's what you're physically representing in Aikido, becoming one with someone. So that we're really bringing them up to our level. They're scrubbling around down here trying to attack us. But instead of attacking back here, we're up here, so we're bringing them up. We hold them and bring them up to this level where their emotion is neutralized in this movement. Their physical movement is neutralized in this circular movement, and we become one with them, and then they end up calm and resting on the mat. So that's the representation of what we do with someone when we're in a board meeting, for instance, or at work, or with our partner in the kitchen or in the living room. When some difficulty comes up, we have to immediately recognize that I am the only one that can do anything about this. I cannot expect them because I can't control them. I'm the only one that can do anything about this. And if I want to connect with them, and if I want to be together with them, then I have to remove the obstacle. And removing the obstacle does not mean fighting with them. Of course, that strengthens the obstacle. So that's the idea of the magic pot. We cannot forgive someone when we're still angry with them, when we're still blaming them for our feeling, when we see that our feeling is because of us, never because of anything on the outside. It's always in reaction to something on the outside, but it's our reaction, it's our feeling, and only we can deal with that feeling. So when we see that, and that's what keeps us from connecting with everyone in the world, that changes our life practice completely. So this Toi Sensei saying that one point in the lower abdomen is a magic pot is huge, because if we actually practice it, it changes our relationship with the whole world. Okay? Yeah, it's not like you're going to go, okay, I got it. I'm done now. This is something we're all working on all the time. We're always in a state of progress. Life is practice. It's not supposed to be perfect performance. So this kind of practice that we do just brings us closer and closer to a state of equanimity, a state of maturity, a state of living freely with insight. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. This is a big subject. Please continue to work with it. どうもありがとうございました。